Welcome, everybody, to our first edition of Collider Bodyslam Raw Recap. We told you on the last episode of Collider Bodyslam, in that iteration with Aaron and me, and of course Chris Burns coming in as a guest, that we were going to make some changes to Collider Bodyslam. This is one of those changes. Ryan Satin of the Pro Wrestling Sheet, you know, Collider Bod Pro Wrestling Sheet. He is doing all the pro wrestling coverage. I am happy to come on board and do the things that I can for him, but we are going to be covering Raw and Smackdown every week, and we're starting off today with Raw with what happened last night. Ryan, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for our first episode here, and I'm sorry to those of you who were hardcore Collider Bodyslam listeners. I didn't try to break up the family. We're still going to be doing things all together. You son of a bitch! I'm not trying to be the evil GM who came in and made my own brand split here. But I really think Aaron is so passionate when it comes to indie wrestling, and I really wanted him to get his own show that just spotlights indie wrestling. And I know that you and I are here in the office. It's a little easier for us to start cracking into Raw early, and this was honestly a great episode to start off with for our show, because I personally enjoyed the show. Yeah,
there was a lot going on in the show, and I don't know if I 100% enjoyed it, but I certainly had more fun in this show than I did last week. And so, I was. It's funny how all this took, because Ronda Rousey coming back and everything. And before we get into it, what Ryan is talking about, Aaron Turner will now be on Saturdays. His episode will come out on Saturdays. I know that I was holding a wild horse back a little bit with his love of indie wrestling, because I didn't have the time to watch everything. He will now breathe life into that indie wrestling scene with Jay Washington, who has wrestled in the indie scene. So look for that on the Collider Bodyslam.
It's going to be the Wrestling Sheet radio feed. This will be audio-wise, too.
Right.
And, that's where you can find all of our shows if you only want to listen to the audio.
Yeah, and the first one will be this Saturday. So anyway, all right, Raw. Well, let's just start off from the beginning. Volkoff, a little tribute to Volkoff and Brian Christopher. You know, we unfortunately lost both those people under different circumstances over the weekend. And, we did a piece about it, about Grandmaster Sexay and about Nikolai Volkoff. Now, you're more a Sexy guy. I'm more the Volkoff guy. Right? I love Sexy, right?
Yeah.
And Too Cool. But, Volkoff is what I grew up with. And, the fact that he wasn't even... You know what's funny is when you do this research about these Russian wrestlers, almost none of them are actually Russian. It's insane. Like the Volkoff, the Nikita Koloff, they're like Canadian.
Yeah,
totally. Nikolai was a Croatian.
Yeah.
And so what are your memories of these two guys, man?
When it comes to Nikolai, I unfortunately don't have a lot of them.
Right.
I've seen him in documentaries, and I because of the WWE Network, thankfully, I have gone back in time and been able to relive some of these things that I didn't get to watch. So it wasn't until recently when I saw the whole Russian national anthem stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, man, this is great. I love this stuff. This is great. For me, definitely, like you said, Grandmaster Sexay. I mean, I loved Too Cool. My brother was kind of a wigger growing up. He was kind of like that white kid who dressed like he had dressed in FUBU.
A yo boy,
Yeah, totally. Like he was like the guy from the Pretty Fly for a White Guy video for a little while. So I was a big fan of Too Cool, and I'm really glad they did something for them right at the top of the show. I know there's only so much you can do especially when there's two wrestlers that passed away in the same weekend that were fixtures on television.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they did something, and I'm really glad that the wrestling community is paying tribute to Brian Christopher, even if he had a rough life and a rough ending to it.
Well, listen, this business is tough sometimes, and you got to be strong enough to survive it, and some people aren't, and it is for any entertainment business. We see that happen with actors all the time, and directors and what have you. So it happens. I hope they do a retrospective on at least a mini documentary on Brian Christopher. I'd love to see a full documentary on Volkoff, because
I would love that too.
People love him, and still in the wrestling business, he would still show up and do the signings, autographs. Do the memorabilia stuff, all that stuff. Everyone says how nice he was, and he wasn't like, oh, poor me, when his health was declining. He was a very chill guy, very, very nice guy, loved the business.
I think it would also be good to do something like that, more so on Nikolai Volkoff than Brian Christopher.
Absolutely.
Mainly because there are a lot of people like me who weren't necessarily someone that got to watch him, and I think it'd be good to let people know what his legacy is for those who aren't familiar with him.
Absolutely, and Sheik is still alive, so you can use Sheik.
Absolutely.
The jabroni. Yeah. All right, so we start out with a backstage shot of Brock and Heyman. That's going to carry through the rest of the show, and then Roman has his in-ring promo with Lashley, and Heyman interrupts, does his standard stuff. The Lashley-Heyman thing, the Lashley Reigns thing, what was your feeling about that? Why are we still doing this? I thought it was over.
I thought it was. That's exactly what I was going to say, Rocha. Is I thought we were moving on from it, and it did seem. And I know we're going to get into it. It did seem like we are kind of transitioning out of it. But I also didn't really understand the point of Roman giving props to Bobby Lashley there when they've been so at odds the past couple weeks.
Right. The little Bob action.
The Bob action, exactly.
I got a lot of respect for him. He gave me all that I can handle, blah, 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 blah. And then Heyman comes out because Roman says all this stuff, says, Lesnar's not going to come out. Lesnar's not going to show up. He doesn't have the guts to show up. What kind of guy is this guy, blah, blah, blah. And then right on cue, there's Heyman. And Reigns gave it away because he turned and stared at the thing. Sometimes his timing, it drives me insane. Just keep going till they play the music. That's what an improv person does.
It's funny, too, because I think you and I, being people who are around the entertainment industry, those kinds of things drive us crazy. Like when they do the backstage interviews and they stop talking and they're just staring at each other, waiting for the camera to pull out, it makes my skin crawl. Like I'm like, just cut away or have them keep talking.
Exactly.
And then the same thing when they stare at the rep, like waiting for the person to come out. It's like, okay, we get it. They're gonna come out. Just have them come out.
Right. And there's a difference between calling someone out and waiting for them to come out. Then it's my turn now to turn to the ramp and wait for the cue for the music.
Well, I got no more lines left, so I'm just gonna stare at the ramp till something happens.
I've memorized everything.
I memorized it all, Vince. Not my bad.
So Heyman comes out and does this great promo, but he does he says the same lines over and over again and all this kind of stuff. So I'm wondering where this is going, and I'm like, are we hitting all the same beats? At this point in my mind, I'm like, are we hitting all the same beats to set up this match again? And, Heyman saying, oh my God, what's the difference of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, different results. And then, Reigns says he's going to make Lesnar his bitch, which of course he's been saying. I don't think that carries the weight that Lesnar thinks it carries. Reigns thinks it carries anymore. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, totally. It reminds me of that sketch from Key and Peele when they're like, and I said, bitch, or whatever about their wives. It's like, we get it. We know you say stuff. He hears you. He's backstage. Right. It doesn't hold the same weight anymore. Like, it was cool the first couple of times, but now it's like, okay, we get it. You think he's a bitch. Like, you said it a million times. Like, you can have a new line. Like, bitch isn't necessarily the most witty thing to call someone.
Yeah. And I remember the time when you didn't have to use those kind of words to, like, call people out. Like, Triple H almost never used that word and was still able to call people. Him and The Rock had some of the greatest banter back and forth when they were having their rivalries and without using any cuss words.
Well, and to be fair, as a young child, when I was a young child, I did enjoy when they would throw words out like that. I'm like, oh, man, that guy's a badass. Oh, right. He cusses. Like, that guy, he says bitch, like, damn, like he's maybe not someone you want to mess with. So I kind of get thrown in there sometimes, but I agree with you in the sense that it kind of feels like we're playing repeat here. Yeah. Every time we get back to Roman versus Brock, it feels like Vince is just digging his heels. He's like, we're gonna get you to cheer for Roman one of these freaking times, and I'm gonna keep re-signing Brock to extensions until it happens. Yeah. And we're gonna get to it at the end. He's maybe close to it this time.
I don't disagree with you. That's what shocked me. Miami was on his side, and I was really shocked by that. I thought for sure this was going to be a taste of what he's going to get in Brooklyn, and there were some boos. We're not going to lie about that, but he seemed to have more support, and this is kind of quietly growing over the last few weeks. This audience support for Reigns. I don't know what's happening, and it's very organic. Wrestling fans are very organic for whatever reason, and when they finally love something or start to get warmer to something, it's even more dangerous than when they weren't. Because if you lose them at that point, they're never coming back. And so,
do you think that it had to do with the Lashley feud? Because I'm telling you,
maybe.
In a million years, I never would have thought that Roman Reigns versus Lashley would have helped both wrestlers get over more.
Yeah.
But it kind of did.
It did. It certainly cemented Lashley and pushed him away from that Sami Zayn stuff. And then with Roman, it showed that he could actually carry a match with Lashley where Lesnar seemed to be the aggressor in most of their matches. It was more Reigns with Lashley and working with Lashley and putting him over, in essence, giving him that victory at the pay-per-view, and then, of course, winning the way he won with the Superman punch. I mean, Lashley he's not as fluid as Lesnar in the ring, and that's what bothers me. He's a dude that just is not a natural athlete necessarily, but he looks ripped and he's huge, but when he moves around the ring, it's just this side of plodding. And so, whereas with Lesnar moves around the ring so well, there's a difference in that. Reigns does a great job with great chemistry, which was shocking. And you're right, it put them both over. And but then we go backstage and we see Lesnar reading the Backwoodsman magazine, which I want to subscribe to immediately.
This was the best running thread that they've had on Raw in a long time.
Yes.
The Brock reading these magazines was whoever had the idea to put these backwoods magazines and frontiers of magazines in Brock's hands deserves a raise or a big pat on the back, because it honestly made all these segments that much better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the fact that he doesn't watch the show, which is all the... And it was so funny because this is the episode they took and they really pushed that storyline from reality into the show. This idea that Lesnar doesn't show up enough, that he doesn't care about the show, that he cares about UFC more, that he's using wrestling to promote himself as a brand as opposed to loving the business. And so that was prevalent throughout all these backstage scenes with Heyman, you know? But that was the beginning with him and Heyman, him kind of ignoring Heyman, saying, I don't watch the show, blah, blah, blah. You know, it was a different twist. Did you like how this all progressed?
Okay, so I did. But
okay.
And a lot of people didn't seem to like it.
Really?
I enjoyed it. Like
I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. Like
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. I liked that we were seeing the slow crumbling of the relationship between Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
I think wrestling is best when it mixes reality with fiction.
Yeah.
Like that's really when it's the best in my opinion. That's when it carries over the best. That's when it has the biggest success. That's when people, are talking about it, the water cooler talk, so to speak.
Exactly.
And this was one of those moments where, like you just said, we're supposed to know that Brock Lesnar's on the way out. That's the big rumor. Brock Lesnar's on the way out. UFC's in his future. He's going back there. He's given another shot. And we also are supposed to believe that he doesn't care about WWE. Like you said, he's using it strictly to promote himself. And this was the first time where I felt like they got that across so well. In the past, when they wanted you to think that Brock Lesnar was leaving, it didn't necessarily feel that way.
Right.
It was more like if you're an internet fan, if you're someone, and I know everyone has the internet now, so it's not necessarily an IWC or whatever, but like if you're someone who's on every wrestling site, who's on wrestling Twitter, all those types, you've seen it coming. But I don't think necessarily the average fan, the one who isn't digging into every news story, who's just watching it on TV every Monday or Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time where it drove it home to them. Like, hey, this guy, he doesn't care. He doesn't even watch Raw while he's there.
Right.
Like, we show you all. They all watch on those backstage TVs. He doesn't. He just reads his stupid Frontiersman magazine. He's a dick. And I thought they did a really good job of that. Although I will say, I find it funny that we're supposed to dislike Brock for not watching the show when I watch Raw. Most wrestlers appear as though they don't watch the actual show they are on.
Right.
Like when you see them next week, they're like, what happened? Or like when someone gets beat up backstage, like, what happened? I didn't know that. Like, why didn't you just watch the show when you're standing backstage?
Yeah.
Like, I always get confused by that. Like, shouldn't they all be watching the show backstage?
You would think.
You would think, but still, I liked it. Brock seemed like a total dick.
Like Total Performers, they only focused on their segment and not the entire show.
Yeah, like the rest of the time they're just sitting back there on their iPad, like tweeting and stuff.
I'm here to do a job.
You're here to do a job.
Well, that's why Triple H runs him, because Triple H wasn't one of those guys. He watched the whole show all the time. It's
true.
Figured it out, was a student of it, and he's a CEO. I like listening to interviews with Paul Levesque, who's Triple H, because Paul talks about the effort that he put in and that the opportunities were there for all the other wrestlers to do the same. Vince laid it out to them. If you guys want to participate, the door is always open to sit in on meetings, and you've got to be a little bit of aggressive to show that you want to be part of these meetings, and you may have to step on some toes, but if you show effort and initiative, Vince rewards you, and look where he is now. And a lot of wrestlers started out with Triple H that way and were going to these meetings, and they all fell off eventually because they didn't like sitting through all this other stuff. And so,
I think that's why one of the things that it's not necessarily like the openly talked about thing, but when you hear someone like a Stone Cold Steve Austin or people of that nature where they're talking about this generation being different,
right?
You hear about, from what I hear, a lot of time you don't hear about everyone sitting around watching the show backstage. Yeah. They're all kind of doing different things here and there, whatever.
Yeah.
But you would think that sitting there and watching everybody's matches and being present would be an important thing if you want to be seen backstage and get a big push.
I would think so. Speaking of big pushes that someone is not getting, Finn Balor versus Baron Corbin, the Constable. And the Constable won this thing clean.
Yeah, you hate the Constable.
I really do. I hate the Constable. Although I will say, by the end of Raw, I had different thoughts about the Constable. But
all right.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I have my opinions, but my opinions can change as things go along, and I have no shame about that. But with Finn, the push is weird. Him losing like this, does this mean we're going to see the Demons soon? And a lot of people were saying the trunks were kind of an allusion to the red and black. So what do you think?
It makes the most sense.
Right?
It's been a while now since we've seen the Demon.
Yeah.
It's been too long, I think, since we've seen the Demon. And Finn has kind of lost some of his his appeal
Yeah.
since then. I mean, honestly, it was really since that whole Sister Abigail demon feud where everything kind of started to go downhill for him. He got stuck in this really weird, hokey feud that ended up not happening because Bray Wyatt got sick. And then we haven't seen the demon since, and he's kind of been floundering. I would like to see the demon come back, although I am of the belief that I like that the demon only has to be brought out on special occasions, like when he really needs it. Like when he was in NXT, I remember it was kind of pushed that he didn't even want to be the demon.
Right.
It was that the demon had to be brought out under like the most dire of circumstances. And so I don't think Baron Corbin necessarily falls into the category of like undefeatable beast.
This should not be the person you bring the demon out for.
Right?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. But do you like how this is going? Because there's going to be another match, clearly. And they're leading to a paper. There's going to be a SummerSlam thing between them.
I like the character of the Constable. What I don't like is the Constable wrestling.
That I think I 1,000,000% agree with you.
I don't like my authority character wrestling.
Yeah.
I don't think it, and maybe I can't think of it being done in the past.
Kane would do it when he was part of the Authority. It drove me nuts.
Me too. Yeah.
And he would wrestle in his suit.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Even more
and you know what? You and my girlfriend have now ruined him wrestling in a suit for me because when I watch it, I'm just thinking about he's gonna rip that vest, man, or he's gonna rip those pants and ruin them, and it does kind of bother me now. Like I'm like, man, just put on some trunks, dude, or put on some pants, you know, not suit pants, you know.
Just rip off the pants and there you go. You're good to go.
Just rip off your pants, Baron Corbin. Just do it.
It's got to be some. You guys could be some Constable merch you can sell underneath, for God's sakes.
Tearaway pants.
Tearaway pants. Come on.
There really aren't enough tearaway pants used in wrestling anymore. You know,
there used to be great.
Yeah, you know, I don't even see people even using tearaway pants enough at all. Although, have you ever owned tearaway pants?
Of course.
They're so hard to get back together once you do. Like, it's worth it when you do it, but it is hard to put them back together.
It's like the demon. You don't bring out the tearaway pants other than special occasions. It's just fucking the truth.
Exactly.
And we get another backstage. We'll see what happens with Constable and with Balor, but I hope something he can be done with this feud eventually and moved up to the next ranking. I'd love to see a Balor if he goes heel against Rollins, or even not heel. Just have them fight each other on a program would be great for a few months. Now Angle goes backstage with Heyman, and he says that Heyman is fired if Brock doesn't appear on Raw tonight. Heyman tried to get out of it saying, well, look, he was supposed to be contractually obligated to be here. He doesn't have to be on screen, or he's been on screen rather. He doesn't have to be out in the ring. And so Angle's like, no, you're going to be fired if he doesn't show up on Raw tonight, because Angle supposedly now is upset that Lesnar is not a good Universal Champion all of a sudden out of the blue. Then we have a recap of the Evolution stuff, which we already talked about on a news piece. If you want to hear our thoughts on it, that was about a week ago. We did a news piece that you can look at, Ryan and I talking about our thoughts on that. Then Alicia Fox and Natalya, with Alicia Fox winning due to interference from Alexa Bliss. Alicia Fox comes out with Alexa Bliss. Mickie James is injured, so Alexa handpicked Alicia Fox for some reason, and look, nothing against. Listen, Alicia Fox to me is one of the great workhorses in the women's division, and she will lose a title, not get a title, be involved in crazy feuds, do stupid stuff. But I think Alicia she loves this business, and she doesn't get anywhere near the credit or attention that she deserves.
She's almost like the Miz of the women's division.
That's a great point.
You know, she's like, her character is so entertaining, but she really doesn't get enough credit for her in-ring abilities. I mean, as much as, she's maybe not putting on 5-star matches or anything like that, but that match last night, obviously everyone knows she's got the best Northern Lights suplex in the game.
Yes.
And, and there were a few weird moves that she did in the ring, but I like that she's different in the ring, that she stands out. That, a lot of women who came in at the same time as her, they've been long gone.
Yeah.
She's stuck around. She's held it down for a long time, similar to we were talking about Titus O'Neil recently, and how he has held it down for as long as he has. So, I agree. And, Alicia, here's what I want to know. And we were just talking about this, reality and fiction being blended here.
Yep.
So after the match is when all the stuff with Ronda Rousey happened. Ronda Rousey gets involved.
Yes.
Do you think that they went to this because of the incident that happened between Alicia Fox and Travis Brown, Ronda Rousey's husband, at WrestleMania weekend?
Oh, I don't know about this. Tell me about this.
So during WrestleMania weekend, there was a video that went viral. Oh my God. That I forget, some UK publication did it, but we posted it on the site, where Alicia seemed a little intoxicated at the Wrestler Hotel, and she's like in Travis Brown's face calling him rude. She's like, hey, you are rude. How could you do that? You are rude. And she's like in his face. And then you see like another girl, like someone's filming, and another girl kind of comes up and is like, someone's filming you. Someone's filming you. You know? And she's like, she like snaps at her. She's like, are you filming me? And she's like, boom, like hits the camera out of the guy's hand. And then that's where the video ends.
I got to find this video.
Yeah, it's on the site, ProWrestlingSheet.com. If you search Alicia Fox on there. But I found it interesting that, I know that it's not her first feud, but now that like Alicia's back, because Alicia was injured, was injured at the time when that happened, and now that Ronda's back and Alicia are both on Raw together, I love Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon always does this kind of stuff. That's the only reason he paired them up.
Yeah, Matt Hardy and Edge. He always loves to play the real stuff in wrestling, which is very dangerous and combustible.
So dangerous.
If this is real, I would love to find out what happened then. What was the issue?
I've been trying to figure it out, and I've never been able to get a firm answer on what happened.
I wonder, man, 'cause people talk. There are circles, and and Travis, Ronda's husband, he'd had his history of allegations of abuse towards women. So there's stuff here. And so if that was real, and maybe Alicia knew the woman, must be an interesting situation. But Ronda, to her credit, great in the ring.
Totally.
Horrible on the mic, horrible as an actress. And I don't know what we're going to do about this. We talked about Paul Heyman earlier. If you want to see our video about Paul Heyman, that's up on the Pro Wrestling Sheet as well. We talked about the possibility of who would Heyman manage. Ronda seems the most logical choice because of, and Balor, because of similar circumstances to Lesnar. But this idea of Ronda on the mic and in the crowds and everything, it drives me insane because she overplays every moment, man. Nobody does, like I was saying, nobody does this. Oh boy, I'm gonna get that. Nobody does that anymore. Nobody does the cracking of the knuckles anymore. Nobody does any like the staring straight ahead. Like that's the thing that's so weird about her is I think she's certainly great in the ring. But I just think there's miles to go on the outside of the ring. But what's incredible is the fans don't seem to give a shit.
No,
they love her.
Yeah, it's because she's such a badass in the ring. I mean, I'll forgive them for a few bad promos for those awesome Samoan drop things that she's been doing. Those like judo slam things that she's been doing. They go like that spinning motion. It looks badass. Like I'm super into it, and so I think that helps a lot. You know, and as much as everyone said, like, oh, people hate Ronda Rousey, the crowd loves her. They'll forgive her for almost anything right now. So luckily, she isn't being judged as hard as everyone seemed like they were going to judge her initially.
Right, yeah, it's true. And because of the in-performance, and it is scary. It's legitimately scary. And I wouldn't fault any of those women to be legitimately scared to work a program with Ronda because it looks like she is legitimately. But to Ronda's credit, she takes bumps.
Oh, yeah.
And she takes hard bumps. Alicia threw her against against the side wall like 3 or 4 times. And she took them all.
Because of that, how quick do you think the match next week between Alicia Fox and Ronda Rousey goes?
If this goes more than 30, this is a Santino Morello match. If this goes more than 30 seconds, I'll be surprised.
Me too.
She'll absolutely demolish her.
My girlfriend is like the biggest Alicia Fox fan.
Oh,
she's
good.
like full stan status on
Respect
Alicia Fox.
your girlfriend.
Yeah, and she is going to be so sad next week when this match is over in 30 seconds. She was tweeting about like Alicia's gonna put that girl in her place, and I was like, okay, don't get too excited for next week. It's gonna go quick.
Yeah, well, the Alexa, what do you think is gonna? Because the Alexa thing, darting around the ring, then got away, and all that kind of jazz, and then of course Ronda kind of almost chased them out. I thought Nia was going to show up. I thought Nia would have something to do with this. But I guess they're putting Nia in the back burner for now and then letting this thing play out the way it is. But giving her Alicia is just giving her something to do. And I was a little though underwhelmed that her first Raw match ever is going to be against Alicia Fox. Although I love Alicia Fox, the prestige of Alicia Fox isn't as powerful as maybe some other wrestler.
Well, I think that they're going to go with and this is what I thought they should have done from the get-go, is making her out to be a monster now. I mean, they got to give her some squash matches. They have to let Ronda squash a few female talent. And Alicia Fox, I think because of her being a Miz-like character, where wins and losses, I don't think matter.
They
for
don't
Alicia
matter
Fox,
to Alicia.
That she can get the crap beat out of her and next week be throwing beers backstage, taking drinks and throwing them, and everyone's gonna still love her. She put a weird sailor hat on. Everyone's still gonna cheer for her.
When she was the captain of the team, it was the greatest. Those were the greatest segments. That's the thing about Alicia. Alicia is this unsung hero. She makes the most out of whatever segment you give her, and she's great at it. I would love to sit down with her for an hour and interview her.
Oh, that'd be great.
She's just so much fun.
She is so fun. Actually, I used to co-host Lillian Garcia's show with her.
Oh, wow.
Her podcast when it was at AfterBuzz still, and one of the episodes that she recorded with Alicia Fox, and I liked it a lot. It was interesting. It was really
That's great.
interesting.
I got to watch that.
Yeah.
All right, Brock is backstage again reading the American Frontiersman this time, and he tells Heyman to get him a steak well done. Like, just ordering. All of a sudden, there's this switch, right? Like Lesnar's gotten too big for his britches. He's now telling Heyman what to do, which is so funny.
I also love that they had him do the well done line, because
Yeah.
like they're literally begging you to boo Brock Lesnar, and nobody likes their steak well
They
done.
really-
Well, a few people like
guess
their steak
some
well,
people do.
some people like their steak well done. But like when you go to a steakhouse with someone and they order it well done, you give them that look like, really, dude, you got a steak well
You're
done?
going to make us all wait for our steaks because your steak's going to take 45 fucking minutes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I loved that, and I also love that where they threw in the second magazine this
Oh,
time.
yeah. Oh,
You know,
God.
because now you get this image of Brock just like having like a doctor's office full of magazine subscriptions at his house.
They're lumberjack magazines. They're lumberjack magazines, like dudes living out in the woods. These are the magazines for him.
He's just sitting on his couch at home, and Sable's bringing him his new
Yeah.
subscription to American Frontiersman while he's digging into a steak each time. I love that. The image of that is so great.
Yeah.
He's got his gun rack behind him. It's just like. Hello.
Oh, thank you. Speaking of steak, we were just talking about
That is
this.
such a good coincidence that we got steak while we're talking about steak.
And not well done.
This is why I
This is
like
good.
working at Collider, everybody. I literally just got steak brought to me while we're discussing steak. And that's great. Oh,
All right.
and medium rare, too. It's great.
That's pretty good.
It's not well done.
No, I got to have one more bite,
Yeah.
and then we're going to move on. All right, so then we get an Elias segment. Lashley interrupts.
We should cheers to Brock Lesnar, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers.
Oh, cheers, Brock
Cheers.
Lesnar. Good stuff, Lesnar. So Elias comes out, who's some scientist somewhere in Harvard or Yale or MIT or maybe one of those places out in Europe has got to figure out why Elias is so over as well as like I've got to figure out the factors of this, the scientific formula, because I have no idea why Elias is over as well as he is. He has not changed his shtick since the first time he did it, and it just changed towns. He insulted Miami, and they loved him for it.
It's one of those situations where commitment to the character really does pay off, Because I know for a fact that when Elias got brought up to the main roster, there wasn't this huge expectation that he was going to, set Raw on fire. But it was Vince McMahon who got really into the character, and Vince was similar to Jinder Mahal, where he was like, this is one of the guys I'm going to be putting all my, I'm all in on this guy, And so he has fine-tuned every single part of that, and from the songs to the extra additions to his outfit to even the longer hair. Vince was a huge person pushing for the Elias character. I mean, because he really didn't do much in NXT. And I agree with you. He really has gotten so over. I mean, I hated Elias when he first came up.
Me too.
I was like, fuck this guy, dude. Like, I don't want to watch someone sing every week. But you can't help but laugh when he's out there. I mean, you
agreed.
can't help it. Even this week with the Lashley stuff, I was like,
Oh my
man,
God.
I love Elias. Did you watch the documentary yet?
What, on him?
So so they were airing commercials during Raw, and I'm gonna watch it today at the end of the day because I haven't had a chance yet.
Yeah.
Once I get some time.
I was
But-
fast forward through commercials, so I must have missed it.
So they did like a mockumentary on the making of Walk with Elias.
Going home tonight. and
Yeah,
watching that.
because I thought it was just a documentary, so I was like, I don't really care about watching Elias record his album. But then when they showed the commercial,
Dude.
it's like him doing stuff, and like it was like him getting mad at CFO money or CFO dollar or whatever. It's like him being like, "Do you guys even know how to? Let me get in there and do it." And then like him talking to like the record
Oh my
executive,
God.
and he's like hyping himself up to the record executive, and then it cut to like an interview with just the record exec by himself, and he's like, I have no idea who this guy is. And so it's like a full mockumentary status. I can't wait to watch it. I hope.
Holy shit.
I haven't actually seen a lot on Twitter about it today, so I'm hoping that maybe everyone was like me and got a little busy with everything that happened on Raw last night because I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I gotta watch this thing. Anyway, Lashley was funny as hell doing his Rock and Robin thing, and then gets hit from behind. So I guess that's the new feud now, Elias and Lashley. We'll see where that goes. But I think Elias, they're doing all this stuff with him. The strap can't be far behind.
No.
So I think they're lining him up in a certain way, and so it'll be interesting. Maybe a year down the road, he'll be in a program to possibly win the title, which will be interesting.
I'm waiting for Brock Lesnar to finally drop the title so
Yeah.
we can finally move on from that. Like,
I agree.
I'm cool with Brock. I love Brock. Brock's a great character.
Sure. But Brock doesn't even need the strap.
Brock doesn't need the strap.
Yeah.
And it's like, at this point, there are just so many people that are just being neglected on Raw because Brock Lesnar isn't there every week. Like, because there's not a main event feud like that every week.
Yeah.
A lot of guys aren't getting the main event rub, because even if they're in the main event, it's for the Intercontinental title or something like that. I'm cool with Roman being the champion that defends against all of them.
Yeah.
You know, I want that. I'm ready for it. And I think that once we finally have Roman's real coronation, when it finally happens, hopefully soon, maybe even SummerSlam, I'm ready for Elias in a main event title run.
Yeah, agreed. It's certainly on its way. It feels like it's on its way.
And that's with barely any matches. He rarely wrestles.
Yeah, I know. That's what's amazing.
We're saying this, and he rarely even wrestles. He's like a Brock in the sense that he rarely even wrestles.
That's right. That's why I want a scientist to figure this out. All right. Kevin Owens and Constable Corbin have a backstage segment about the case, about all the briefcase and everything going on. Not much happened there. Then Strowman comes out to fight Jinder Mahal, the Maharaja, who I love, and I think they're turning him face a little, at least a goofy face, and I'm a little worried that we're getting back to 3MB with him, and I don't want this to happen because I really enjoyed him as a possible like foil or heel because I think he worked really hard, and Booker T speaks highly of his work ethic.
I'm right there on that. I'm right there with you on this. Like, I was never anti the big push that Jinder Mahal was getting.
Fun.
It was fun. It was a good character. He played the shitty heel very well.
He does.
You wanted to boo him. I liked all that with him. So I was the same way. I haven't loved his switch to going back to like the peace thing, the inner peace thing, or whatever he's been saying, and his, all that. I'm not feeling it. I tweeted about this. If they hadn't done the Constable, I almost think this would have been a better idea. Now that I'm thinking about it, is when Jinder first got re-signed, one of the initial pitches for him that got turned down. Yeah. But it was one thing they were really thinking of doing when they first re-signed him was having his character be called the Mahal Monitor, and he was going to be like a self-appointed authority figure of the hallways of WWE. And I thought that was actually a really funny idea.
Oh my God.
It's pretty funny, right?
Do you have the bathroom pass?
Exactly. And like when there's all these things happening backstage, him showing up to like stop the chaos going on backstage because he's the Mahal Monitor.
Right. With the whistle.
Exactly. I thought it was a great idea. And it almost seems like they're going the comedy route with him now. And it's interesting because, that's almost like the pattern you get with the evil foreigner gimmick now. You have like the initial heel massive run, and then if it doesn't go well, they get kind of relegated to a comedy character on the mid card. And I mean, he's on main event now more than he's on Raw.
Yeah.
So
who's the guy that imitated? I loved Sando. It feels like a Sando thing is happening to him. Where people loved him for a while, and now they're slowly moving him into this comedy character. And I just hope he doesn't leave. I love him. Me too. WWE. He's great.
mean, it's a bummer too because. I think that a lot of people feel like, their success in India wasn't as big as it should have been.
Right.
And that they gave him this huge push for that. So I don't know. I mean, I know that there was plans a while ago where like when he was the champion, Vince was strongly behind it and wanted to bring him to Raw, have Jinder versus Brock. Like he had like big plans for Jinder, and they've all fizzled away now. So I don't see anything happening for him besides being a comedy character anytime soon.
Man, maybe at some point he turns massive heel, full heel, and then maybe they let him do some stuff.
I think he needs both Singh brothers back to be at full Maharaja.
Great point.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yep, I agree with you completely. Strowman wins that, or Jinder wins that for the count out. Strowman goes out chasing Kevin Owens, and Cole says something where he says, that's the problem with Strowman that worries me. He's so laser focused or something. It might be trouble for the match, blah, blah, blah. So we'll see. But I'm enjoying the Kevin Owens Strowman thing. I think they're good for each other because I think they both get it, and then they enjoy like sacrificing for the other. Yeah, the comedic moments and all that kind of jazz. I just like them. Then we wasted time with some Mojo Rawley calling out the wrestlers in the lock. I can't listen. Mojo, I don't know you personally. I'm sure he's probably a decent fellow. A lot of people like him. Please don't take this personally. I'm not mad at you. I really hate what you're doing. I really hate everything that's happening with him. Him walking through just below the mid-carders, the C-card, whatever you want to call them.
The main event room.
The main event wrestlers walking amongst them. And then you have Bobby Roode there. I was like, oh, no. Why is Bobby Roode in this room with these dudes? He's the best of the stinky pile. And I'm like, no.
The best of the stinky pile.
That's what it feels like to me, man. I'm like, no, Roode does not belong down there with the main eventers.
It's like when you're all out of clothes. And you're like, fuck, man, I didn't do laundry. Then you like dig through and you're like, I guess this one doesn't smell that bad. I can wear this to work today.
Yeah, I can get away with this one. Bobby Roode fights him, and then there's people all of a sudden running in, pulling him apart. There's brawl forward. So I guess we're going to get Mojo versus Bobby Roode. Yeah, I guess it's something to give Roode to do, which breaks my heart.
I feel like this is one of the first times where we've been on complete...
Really? You like this?
No, I didn't like this. No. Don't get me wrong. But I like Mojo Rawley.
Okay.
I like Mojo Rawley. I like what they're trying to do. It's not successful yet. It hasn't gotten over.
Really isn't.
I like that they're trying to go for the fact that like he hustles, because there was that one promo he did that really got him over with people when he was like in the gym saying like how he doesn't give up. So I like they're trying to go that route with him. I do not like Bobby Roode.
What?
So see, that's what I was gonna say. We're really on opposite sides here, because I like Mojo and I do not like Bobby Roode. If anything, to me, Mojo Rawley is the least stinky on the top of the pile or whatever, you know, like, because Mojo to me has potential. To me, Bobby Roode, in this current incarnation at least, has been such a massive failure. And I agree. No offense to Bobby Roode, I think he's a talented dude, very capable, has it all. But for some reason, it's like he's been so miscast as a face because of his song that I just don't give a fuck about anything that he does. I just like, every time he comes on screen, I'm just like, what am I supposed to feel right now? What am I supposed to feel? At least with Mojo Rawley, I understand what I'm supposed to feel. It's not like him.
Yeah, good point.
You know?
Good point. You can feel one way or another but Mojo is committed to what he's doing.
Yes.
And one way or another, at least you're getting a strong reaction. But with Bobby Roode, it seems like they're wasting him. Like almost, it's like Finn Balor like. They're just wasting the push. Yeah. And you're like, why'd you bring him up if you didn't have like all these programs set out for him? Why did you bring him up?
And I get the whole like, because I you know, the argument seems to be that like, you know, the call-ups from NXT are starting to be more and more of failures, you know, or not failures, but not as successful as they were in NXT. And then I noticed that there's this argument that, you know, it takes a while for certain talent to resonate with the main roster audience, and that it's not necessarily that they're not getting pushed enough or they're not getting over. It's just the fact that it takes a year or two to become a main, you know, to become ingrained in the WWE universe mind. And I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that at all.
There were things that were working well in NXT that all you have to do is replicate it on the main roster and it would work just fine. You know, Bobby Roode was entertaining in NXT. Bobby Roode's whole thing, when he was staring at his title and smiling at it, being like such a prick heel, limos, you know, it was great. It was, you know, I might not have enjoyed every single one of his matches, but the character was entertaining as hell. And Finn Balor is the same. You know, we were talking about it earlier, where the demon is not something that he wanted to bring out. It's something he had to bring out in the moment. And then Raw's just been like, well, this is when he wears face paint. You know, and it's just like, there are little things that do help characters majorly. It would be similar to like bringing Velveteen Dream to the main roster and getting rid of like all the fun things around him that have helped get him over. And it's just like, well, here's this androgynous dude, you know? And it's like, it needs those things. And to me, Bobby Roode, I groan every time he's on the screen. The only time he's ever been over as a face was in Beer Money. And they weren't cheering Bobby Roode, really. They were cheering James Storm.
James Storm, yeah.
You know, so, I mean, if you want him to get a face, they should hire James Storm and do that. Because honestly, that would be cool. I think it would save Bobby Roode. It would be an asset to the roster. That's how I feel, at least.
I will say, and I will walk out on this limb with Brian and say, Beer Money was the best iteration of Bobby Roode.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. When they were heels, they were fantastic heels on TNA. I loved watching them.
Me too. Beer Money was awesome.
Yeah, I always thought this is ready-made for the WWE. For the Southern fans, it's all, you know, which is the backbone of the WWE, WWF. Like, I just thought, for me, this is just easily transferable.
Well, it was the perfect
so when they
mix
broke
of,
them up, it didn't make sense.
Yeah, it was like the perfect mix of, like you just said, the Southern, you know, the Southern vibe, but then also the New York vibe of Bobby Roode, of like the rich. It made perfect sense. I still to this day don't understand why they haven't brought James Storm in.
Yeah. All right, so then we have Akam, is that what it is?
I think it's Akam.
Okay, Akam from the Authors of Pain against Apollo Crews. Crews wins. Remember Crews? Talk about another NXT call-up that was wasted. Apollo Crews. What a fantastic wrestler. They gave him a push, but then they throw him in with Titus, and that's just to fill in blocks, man. And so it's unfortunate. I think there are actually really good wrestlers that get less time than other wrestlers for whatever reasons. And I don't know what the reason is with Apollo Crews, why he wasn't given even more of a push or a good program to be involved in, because he's a fantastic wrestler, and he's really limber for a guy his size.
Oh, yeah.
His shooting star presses are incredible, or his somersault moves are incredible. All the stuff that he does, I'm just amazed at his abilities.
Well, we've talked, you mentioned with Lashley,
Yeah.
how Lashley isn't really fluid in the ring.
It should totally be Apollo Crews in Lashley's spot.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like Apollo Crews is so much more entertaining in the ring, so much more believable in the ring.
And on the mic.
Yeah. It literally makes no sense why you wouldn't have Apollo Crews in that spot. But you know what's such a bummer is that Apollo Crews' time on the main roster has been so unspectacular that people were that it's gotten to the point where it was disappointing to everybody that he won last night finally.
Yeah.
You would think people would be happy that Apollo Crews finally won a match, but they're like, no, because now you're just going to do exactly to the Authors of Pain what you did to Apollo Crews. And you're giving them these meaningless losses. The wins and losses do matter. As much as people want to believe they don't, they do matter to a certain degree. Not every single one of them. Right. And there are characters that are immune to wins and losses not mattering. But when you're new on the roster, like Authors of Pain, and you're supposed to be this unbeatable force, that you're these tough badasses, when you lose in a singles match after a few weeks, it's like instantly throwing you in. They're going to be the Ascension in a few weeks.
It's like, absolutely. That is absolutely going to happen if something doesn't happen soon for them.
And you would think that they watched what happened with the Ascension, that the Ascension were this massively popular team at NXT that they have done nothing with on the main roster.
Nothing.
For no reason, because they're both not problematic dudes.
Nope.
They're both do their job. They're also really entertaining in other avenues. Like we've seen them in the other shows that WWE does, and we've seen them in Southpaw Regional Wrestling when they were the surf dudes or whatever. So they have so much charisma, and I really don't like seeing that Akam and Razor are being relegated to being the new Ascension so fast.
Yep, they'll be on the main event soon. Look for them soon.
I know,
on main event.
That's what bums me out. They're going to be there soon.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to Seth Rollins. The man going up against Drew McIntyre, the even bigger man. Rollins wins by DQ because of interference from Ziggler. But this match was a good match. Yeah. It's a nice preview of what we are going to see down the road between these two guys. And Drew doesn't even need Ziggler anymore now. It didn't take that long.
No.
When Ziggler comes out first in his suit and everything, the crowd's like reacting. But then McIntyre came out. And the way McIntyre came out, taking his time, walking into the place that he's supposed to be standing next to Ziggler and then walking down. Like, you just know this guy is understanding his push now and he's embracing it, and the fans are loving it. And the match was great.
How soon do you think it is till we see Drew McIntyre in the main event scene? Like, for real? Like
it can't be that far. If they're putting him against Rollins, it can't be that far.
I mean, and I love that he's getting such a massive push.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people assumed he was going to be the bodyguard to Dolph Ziggler.
Right.
But I like
the diesel to the Shawn for a while.
Yeah. But I love that they've been equals.
Yeah.
They've been, and I also love that last night with the new look that Dolph was rocking with the crimped hair.
Yeah.
I like that they have this like certain vibe where it's almost like Batman villain and his henchman, you know, like the politician bad guy with like his muscle behind him, you know? Right. And it's less Shawn Michaels and Diesel and more like straight up comic book villains, you know? And I love that. Like, I think that's great. And I really think that Drew McIntyre really helped fill a void in the roster that you didn't even realize was missing, you know, like that wasn't there. But just the way he presents himself, the way he carries himself, and just how tough he is in the ring. I mean, it's really cool to see how he has transformed himself. Yeah. You know, I mean, he really took getting fired and ran with it in a way that helped his career more than it would have if he had stayed and hung around for a while.
And that's the thing, like sometimes, and we've seen this if you study WWE history or really any wrestling promotion, just because you're fired by that wrestling promotion does not mean down the road you can't come back in some capacity if the factors kind of work themselves out in that way. You just got to do your job. We just get back in that gym, work out, get as many opportunities as possible, work on the skills. You can take it as an insult or you can take it as motivation. And even it's your choice.
And even guys like Ellsworth.
Yeah.
Look at Ellsworth.
Yeah, Ellsworth came back for a little bit.
Ellsworth's barely been fired and he came back. So, I mean, there's always that opportunity as long as you keep hustling and keep a positive mental attitude when you're doing it.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll touch on it as we end the show, but Hogan's coming back. What's that going to be all about? So,
we can talk about that now.
Do you want to do it now?
This didn't actually happen.
Okay.
That was
you talk while I have a piece of meat.
Yeah, eat some meat. So for those of you who didn't see, Hogan teased that he was going to be on Raw last night. Well, he was like, "Hey brothers, I'm flying into Miami, and I might have to go and take the title from Brock, and blah 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 blah, or maybe not. I don't know." And then like the NWO music started playing.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he wasn't there. You know, I don't think that it was needed necessarily. Although it really does feel like it feels like he's going to be at SummerSlam. He has to be at SummerSlam in some capacity, in some way. He's too adjacent at this point.
Okay. All right. What do you want to see happen with him?
I mean, if it were my choice, if I think what could please everybody, I honestly think that they should promote. And it's not the best scenario, but if I were WWE, I would promote an actual sit down where we're gonna do a sit down with Hulk Hogan, and he is gonna actually. I don't care if the roster didn't necessarily all love his apology. I think he owes that same apology to the WWE universe in order to be brought back in. As much as people want to bring him back, there is a huge portion of the audience that heard Hulk Hogan say, "I'm racist" to a certain degree.
Yep.
And you can't bring him back on TV and parade him around as this American hero without him coming in the ring and saying, "I'm a human who grew up with things that were wrong, and times have changed, and I've now changed. I've now realized that those things hurt people. I want to change." Not come out there and say, "You got to watch, brother, when someone's filming you. You never know if someone's going to film you, brother." Right. Don't say that. You got to, for real, heart to heart. It can even be on the WWE Network. I don't care, but I feel like Hulk Hogan needs a heart to heart with the WWE Universe before he can come back, and then do whatever. Bring him back on Bring him back on the SummerSlam. Let him be an enforcer. Let him do whatever. I'm cool with Hulk being in the family again, but I think that he owes that apology to the fans.
This is a great point you bring up, because this is exactly what happened with Angle. They had that whole push, they had him sit down, do the interview, because people it's been 11 years or whatever, you've been in WWE, what have you been up to? That we've heard about the drug stuff, we heard about stuff with your wife and Jeff Jarrett. Everybody had all these questions. And so Angle was willing to put himself through it. They asked him some questions, they carefully crafted that interview. I think that's certainly possible with Hogan, and I agree with you. I think that, I think that's a very smart way to go. And then if you want to keep him around, because Angle's already a GM, there's certainly possibilities of him transitioning into manager.
You think?
I think he could lead a stable. I mean, he essentially led a stable he led stables all the time, officially and unofficially, right?
Yeah.
He would always led the faces when he was starting out as the red and yellow Hulk Hogan in Hulkamania, which is my favorite Hulkamania. He's my favorite wrestler, but I love that period. And then he turned heel and became leader of the NWO. So he has the capacity to lead. And I like when he dresses in the suit with the black bandana around his head and everything. So you could have him that
serious
way.
Suit
I
Hulk?
like serious suit Hulk. I think it works, and you could have him. And who else can cut a promo like the Hulk? Hulk would be great cutting a promo, supporting his people. And maybe they give him these guys that aren't kind of stepping up or not having enough, and he brings them in, and people come "Oh yeah, this is cool because he has all this experience. I'm gonna learn from him." And then you saw him going through, teaching people the paces and how to do promos. So it would be interesting to see him do that. Or if you do a Tough Enough, you bring Hogan in as a coach of one of the side of the Tough Enough.
I mean, that would definitely make sense to bring him back, because that was when things ended as a Tough Enough coach. And I don't think necessarily having him at the Performance Center really would help anyone. He doesn't seem like someone like a trainer or anything like that. Especially with Shawn Michaels there, I don't think they would. I feel like you can't bring Hulk Hogan in against, he would want to be the main guy in charge, and I don't think you want that. Yeah.
Shawn Michaels.
You're not a Shawn Michaels guy?
You bastard. What you did to Hogan in that match. I will never forgive you.
You'll never forgive him?
I will never forgive you. Because you would have pulled the same shit Hogan pulled back when you were champion, back when you were riding high on your own ego. Everybody remembers it, Sean. Don't make me come out there and find you in the woods hunting. I'm gonna find you, Shawn Michaels. No, the Heartbreak Kid is great. I love him. I'm just busting balls.
I love him too. He blocked me on Twitter.
Did he really?
Yeah.
You bastard, even more so.
Yeah.
Why blocking? Why did he
he's
block
my favorite
you?
wrestler of
What'd
all
you
time
say?
too. I think that
Did you question his performance against Hogan?
No, I think he didn't like a story we wrote once on this. He already didn't like me once from a story I wrote at TMZ once, where I wasn't I was still new as a reporter, and I just like the angle of the story. He didn't like it, and so I messed up there. But then years later, when I started the site, I wrote something else that I thought was interesting, and then I think he didn't find it interesting and blocked me. But I love Shawn Michaels. And I like him more than Hogan.
I thought you found Jesus, Sean. What the hell, huh?
Yeah, dude,
what
be
the hell?
forgiving. I'm sorry, dude.
What's that cross for?
I'm sorry,
What's your cross earrings for, Sean? If Jesus can forgive, what's your problem? All right, anyway, let's move on to the last segment before I get killed. Reigns is told to leave the arena and then punches Corbin in front of the cops, but we would be remiss to not also speak about the fact that Lesnar comes out at the end, walks into that ring, F5's Angle, giving Angle a remembrance of their match from way back when, and then scares the shit out of Corbin, which was the first time I enjoyed Corbin. Like, he legitimately was like all about, like, what do you got, Lesnar? And then when Lesnar turned to him, my boy's like, yeah, I'm getting the hell out of here. Right? And then Lesnar does a good job grabbing the title, and you knew something else was going to happen. You didn't know what.
Yeah, you felt it.
Yeah, you felt it.
Right when he put his arm around Heyman, you were like, oh no, is he gonna?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad he didn't F5 Heyman, but right when he put his arm around him, I was like, oh no, he's gonna F5 Heyman.
Yeah, because he'd already grabbed him in the back, so you knew something was going to happen. And then when he put his and I love Heyman. Heyman's so great at this.
Yeah.
I can't breathe. Brock, I can't breathe. Brock, I can't breathe. I'm like, you can get words out.
Heyman is so good at the little things like that.
Yeah.
Like the littlest details, the smallest details. Like, I remember there's other times where you've seen him do it, like where you see his like face in the background, where he's real into it. And this was one of those times when he was like, I can't breathe, Brock. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. You're like, oh, this is good. This is
great.
This is when wrestling is good.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I love, and I think it plays well off of his promo at UFC when he came into the ring and was like, F this guy fucking sucks, blah, 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 blah. And everyone was like, why don't we ever see that Brock in WWE?
Yeah.
I think they tried to play off of that a little bit. And we saw the unhinged Brock Lesnar when he doesn't listen to his advocate. And I always like that Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar when the handcuffs are off is great. I mean, that's when Brock Lesnar is at his best. And so I like that we're seeing the slow crumbling of Brock Lesnar's title reign. Like it's coming to an end. It finally feels like it's coming to an end.
What would you do if the swerve was Reigns went with Heyman in the match? And that's how Reigns wins.
When we were discussing in the video that we posted earlier today, I left Roman Reigns out of that
discussion
so that we could discuss it here. At the last second, also that video was getting a little longer than I would have liked, but also no, for that reason, I felt like it was worthy of its own discussion because a lot of people said that too to me. Was that what if this is to set up Roman turning heel finally, and Heyman and him have a thing together? I'd like it. Yeah. I would like it. I mean, obviously everyone wants to see Roman Reigns turn heel. I mean, obviously it's like
it's just so tailor-made.
It is. And with Brock leaving, it does leave a void for number one top heel in the company.
Good point.
So I could, in theory, see it being a possibility. And we all know that Heyman's character cares about himself, you know. And I thought it was telling that he got called out on leeching off of Brock Lesnar for the past few years. Yeah. It was a little thing, but I thought to myself, that was good. That could have been the character-wise where Heyman goes, oh shit, my gravy train is about to run out.
Right.
I need to figure out my next phase. Now, do I think that they could believably tell the story of Heyman and Roman, aligning and joining forces? I don't know. I have trouble believing that they could tell that believably, but I would love to see it.
Here's my case for it. Heyman lays the groundwork in his opening promo of this Raw when he says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So, if you got something else set up, maybe Reigns had another plan, but now seeing this disintegration, maybe he goes to Heyman. Maybe Heyman goes to him and goes, hey, this, and this. So the turn happens, and Reigns has essentially an NWO moment and says, the reception I got when I came out here, you fans can stick it, brother. It's the same thing, and just goes on about how the fans have booed him, how tired. He's not going to be a John Cena where they're going to half chant and half boo him, and he's going to take control of his own narrative, and that the fans never liked him, never agreed with his push. Vince was never his guy, blah, blah. Just the whole nine, set fire to everything. Pipe bomb the hell out of it.
No one made me strong like I made me strong.
Yeah, I made me strong, right. And if The Rock comes out, screw The Rock, treat him like
I didn't need Dwayne.
Yeah, right.
I didn't need,
all of this. Yeah. If he went full effing heel, it would be great. And you know who enters into the mix at that point? Rollins.
I love it.
Because then you have them work a program, and that works, and have the strap go back and forth. Yeah, Strowman can show up at some point, but you can keep Strowman occupied with a number of things.
Or,
because he has that case
I'll
for
do you
forever.
one better. A returning Dean Ambrose.
Oh,
because they were boys,
and
he's
boys.
like, I can't believe it. You were supposed to be the one that didn't do that.
Right.
You let this punk, turn you against them. Like,
right.
that'd be great way to bring.
That'd
be great way to bring Dean Ambrose back, and he's on the mend. He's on the way back.
Right.
That's the word on the street. So I agree with you. I think that Roman being the top heel to replace Brock Lesnar once he goes makes the most sense.
Right.
And Heyman helping him get there does kind of make sense too now that I think about it.
Yeah.
And
which is why it won't happen. God damn it.
One more thing before we go I want to bring up. While I was watching this segment, I was preparing a tweet. I started tweeting it.
Okay.
And I didn't like when they were saying how shitty of a champion Brock Lesnar has been.
Yeah.
When they kept saying, Brock Lesnar is the worst champion ever. Brock Lesnar is the worst. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. And I was sitting there thinking to myself.
Do you mean Angle or do you mean...
When Angle was saying it.
Yeah.
When Angle was saying he's the worst champion. And then even Paul Heyman said, you're right.
Yep.
He is a shitty champion.
Right.
Like he is a terrible champion. They were really driving that home. And I was sitting there, I was crafting a tweet thinking to myself, like, what does this do for anything? You know, like, does this really make people want to see Roman Reigns beat Brock Lesnar? And then before I could push send, the whole crowd started chanting, "We want Roman."
Yep.
And I know that there were some parts of the crowd that said, "No, we don't." But
yeah, there were.
But there was a large portion of the crowd chanting, "We want Roman," and they weren't necessarily like, conditioned to do that. You know, it's not something that happens all the time. And it slowly and organically happened. And I thought to myself, I am wrong. Clearly, this did do that because at the end of the day, Roman Reigns doesn't get the big cheer that you want, especially one like that. We want Roman. We want Roman is not a chant we normally get. And the fact that it happened organically, I was pretty impressed. I was like, maybe Vince is going to get it right this time.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and this is a great point you bring up because we got to wrap up here real quick, but I was eating my dinner watching that end segment at like 9, 10 o'clock at night because I went to see the Meg, and I pick up my plate to go, oh, they're cheering for, I thought they were saying we want Rollins. And so I get up and I start to walk, and I literally stopped in my tracks. I was like, we want Roman?
Yeah.
What? So I went back and I rewound it, and I'm like, they're really saying that. And kudos to the WWE Universe because I love the fans so much, being a fan myself. They organically responded, no, we don't. The fact that was the chant that busted out organically, this is why I love the fans. And the thing is, when you go see these shows in the arenas and when you watch them on TV, the fans it's rare when the fans in the arena aren't reflecting back what the larger majority feels themselves online who are watching it. So to me, to see it come to life in that way, you understood that the push for Roman is working for whatever reason, and finally, and that people are turning. And so this no, we don't, that's going to be drowned out by the people who want it. So
that's how I look at it. I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, I think we might be slowly getting there. Yeah. Or we're going to get a heel turn as we discussed.
But it would still work if you did the heel turn because it's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. You cheered for me when it was too late, and too late. Now fuck all of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
And that would be perfect.
Totally.
So the first F-bomb on, that would be great on Raw. Anyway, all right, so that's our wrap-up of Raw. What do you guys think about, what did you think about the program? What did you think about the segments? Did you like them? What did you like? What did you not like? What did you think they could work on? And also, who should Heyman manage? We were talking about that. Do you want to see a Roman Reigns heel turn? Are they wasting Balor? Where are we going to go with this? Let us all know in the comments section below. Remember to like and share this video on your social media. Any final things, Ryan?
No, I'm just really looking forward to next week's Raw. I really want to see where this goes. For once, I feel like they ended on a great cliffhanger. We don't get a lot of cliffhangers, and I'm looking forward to Raw next week.
There you go. Yeah, so subscribe to Collider for our recaps. We're going to do these every Tuesday, and then tomorrow, every Wednesday, we'll do SmackDown recaps as well. We have our first one tomorrow. Can't wait to see how SmackDown comes down tonight. All the stuff with Becky Lynch, who I'm a massive fan of. We'll see what happens there. And with Shinsuke and AJ and everything that's happening.
Lana versus Zelina Vega.
Yes, Zelina Vega.
I like it.
Oh, finally, we're doing something with Shen Almas. All right, so there we go. All right, that's our recap. That's Ryan Satin. You can follow him at Ryan Satin. Also follow at Wrestling Sheet for the Pro Wrestling Sheet. And then follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And we will talk to you next week on Collider Bodyslam Raw Recap.